Dermot again, and I'm just going to continue with this series that I'm doing on recovery and anything to do with recovery. And today, as you can see, I'm going to talk about spirituality, a big subject. It can be a very controversial subject, but I'll just take it from how I see it and just use, I suppose, my experience of spirituality. But again, it's open to interpretation. Everybody has their own identity or their own interpretation of spirituality and what it means to them, and that's perfectly okay. Right, so we'll look at what is spirituality, according to me. What is it not? Do we need spirituality in our recovery? How do we find spirituality? And then just summarize it up. Right, so what is spirituality? Well, self-acceptance of our own imperfections, brokenness, addictions, powerlessness. And how I mean here is, for me, and this is how I see it, is, I am imperfect. I'm an imperfect being. It's not that I have to be perfect. I have to be this way or that way. I'm a broken person. I've got an addiction. I'm an alcoholic, but that's okay. I accept that. I accept all my character defects for what they are, all the negative feelings and negative behaviors and all that for what they are. I accept that. I look at that and I take that on board. I don't dismiss it and deny it and say, well, I don't have that. That's not me. It can't be me. I accept everything. So, constructive criticism, you name it, whatever you want to call it, I accept that because that is even other people do see me, but I take that on board and try to use it, try to learn from it. So my imperfections are very important. My brokenness is very important. My addictions, of course, and that's what I have. I'm an alcoholic. I suffer from alcoholism. I can't drink. If I do, I'll die. And then the powerlessness, in the sense of my powerlessness over alcohol, but also my powerlessness over other people. I can't control other people. I can't control the weather. There's a lot of things I can't control in my life. So I need to focus on the things that I can. Go to humility. And that's being part of everything. So in addiction, we would have been humiliated or felt humiliation, having blackouts, not remembering where you went, what you did, where you ended up, who you might have offended. The next day you think, oh my God, what did I do? You feel terrible. You feel terribly humiliated. You're afraid to go out the door. You're afraid to bump into people because you're afraid that you did something to them, but you don't know. Now, humility is the opposite of that. Humility is being part of something bigger than yourself. So if you look at it, if you go into an AA room, you're in with a group of people who are in there for the same reason. They're trying to help themselves in recovery. So you're part of them and they're part of you. So, that's being humble. That's a humbling experience. Belief, and that's just the belief and the faith, and it's belief and faith in whatever you aspire to believe in and have faith in. So whatever gives you a sense of meaning, purpose, and hope in life, and that's what's important. It's not what or who, it's how, and that's what counts. It's how you believe. It doesn't matter what you believe in. It doesn't matter if you don't believe the same as the person next to you. It's how you believe, and that's important. And having that feeling, that inner feeling of faith and belief that things will be okay, things will improve, things will get better. And then letting go of the all the rubbish that holds you back, and then say everything that holds you back, starting from small and building up. And that's all the negativity, the negative thoughts, the negative feelings, behaviors, etc. that do hold you back, and even list them if you can. Go from A to Z. And everything that comes up, how do you feel? How do you think about it? If it makes you feel bad, out the door, let it go. And then your higher power, and again, as I say, it's whatever you believe in. That's not important in this sense, but if it's important to you, that's great. But whatever your higher power is, that's fantastic. If you believe it works for you, you keep, that is your higher power. Your own soul or your own conscience, and again, that's part of your higher power. That's the inner part of us. That's the connection, the subconscious mind, or whatever you want to call it. And that's the connection we have. That's the heart feeling. That's what we feel, not so much what we think. So, don't always go with what your head tells you. Go with how you feel too. Get a bit of congruence in there. That's your soul talking. And then your group AA, as I said before, there's a hell of a lot of power in a group because it's a group of people with the same problem trying to help each other, and the power there is huge. So, what is it not? Well, all behaviors and attitudes. So all your old behaviors that were self-defeating, all your old attitudes, even old people, places, situations, etc., that weren't working for you, that's all of them. So they're not spiritual, because if you're going back to your old ways, it wasn't working and it's not going to work again. So you have to look at all of that and be prepared to change that. Obsessions, and we're very obsessive people because we're in addiction, and cross addiction is very real in early recovery. So just being aware not to obsess on things, obsess on people, situations, etc. It's about, kind of letting things go. So if you don't let those go, don't let go of the obsessions, the old behaviors, the people, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? You're going to carry on getting the same old stuff back again, so what you don't change, you don't change. And then the perfectionism, as I said, earlier on, imperfection is what I have and how I look at my life. Not saying that I'm beating myself up, but that's how we all learn. If we live in a place where we think we're perfect, and we aspire to be perfect, you're going to give yourself a hell of a lot of hard work. But you don't have to be 110%, 120%. You don't have to get 110, 120%. Just doing the best that you can is all that's important. So perfectionism is actually a waste of time and energy at the end of the day. So don't be trying to be a perfectionist, because you're only going to just burn yourself out. Self-dishonesty, and you can't lie to yourself. It's impossible, because you have a thing called a soul or a conscience that tells you differently. And you could start to rationalize and justify and say, oh, well, a wee drink on a Friday night wouldn't do me any harm. But it will. It will. Inside you, your body's telling you, that'll definitely do you harm. Don't you dare. So, you have to kind of look at what's going on there, be congruent with yourself. If the head's telling you to do something, or the little voice is telling you to do something, don't do it, because you're going to feel bad for it. Fear, and that's probably the biggest emotion that drives addiction. And we have to face our fears, and we have to go through our fears. And yes, fear, as it says, false evidence appearing real. And that's what fear is 99% of the time, because that fear is coming from within us. It's not something out there, it's coming on within us. We used the definition of fear in the past is feck everything and run. So as soon as we were confronted by anything that we were afraid of, we went the opposite direction as fast as we could. We were running away. Addiction is running away. So you can't afford to run away anymore. You have to face your fears. You have to deal with them head on, as hard as they may be. But once you start to deal with a fear, especially you look at anxiety, once you start to deal with it, once it's exposed for what it is, it disappears. You look at stage fright, for example. Once you step on that stage, you find the stage fright goes. But building up to that, you felt very afraid. And that happens in a lot of different areas in our life. Once you confront that which is you're afraid of, it'll go. And remember, that fear is not coming from something out there. It's coming from within you. So the fear is always internal. So you're not going to be harmed unless you harm yourself. Resentments, and again, the number one offender, as they call them, in recovery. And from big resentments, old resentments to new resentments, try not to take on board any new resentments if you can. Forgiveness is a great tool. And when you forgive something of somebody, you're forgiving yourself too from holding a resentment. But yes, I do know that a lot of resentments can run very, very deep and be very, very old and go back to your birth or whatever. As long as you're working through them, as long as you're willing to forgive. You might not be in a position to forgive just yet, but you're willing to. You're working on them, and that's just as good as letting them go. So that is part of the whole process. Controlling behavior, trying to control yourself to an extent, but trying to control other people's thoughts, trying to control things around you, circumstances, events, etc. Again, like perfectionism, you're going to burn yourself out. You can't be done. You can't control everything. The only thing you need to control is yourself. Making comparisons in your recovery. My recovery is not as good as his or hers because they're doing this and they're doing that and they believe in this and they believe in that and blah 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 blah. Don't stop doing it. One of the worst comparisons I see is people ask, what is the percentage rate of recovery in our group, so to say? And say, you're not a statistic, you're a human being, So don't ever look at yourself as a statistic, sorry, and think that, oh, I've only got a 40% chance of staying sober long term. You're setting yourself up for disaster. You are you. You're your own person. Don't worry about the other person on the left or right of you. Just focus on yourself. You're doing okay. And then the ego, that tells you to do all the other stuff I've just talked about. The ego is not the big ego saying, oh, I'm such a great person and nothing can never happen to me. Some people are like that. But the ego in the sense of a person in recovery or an addict is the ego is the little voice that's saying, this is not going to work. Stop wasting your time. You're nothing but a good for nothing drunk. And that's all you are and that's all you're going to be. So, might as well go back down the pub and start drinking again because that's all you're good for. That's the ego I'm talking about. The ego that pushes you down all the time, and it's very much linked to your core belief or your negative core belief. So be very much aware of that ego part of yourself. Don't let it get on top of you. Don't listen to it. Do we need spirituality in our recovery? Well, in addiction, we become detached from ourselves, other people, and life itself. And I don't know if you ever felt that, but I used to feel very disconnected. It was almost like, I was having an outer body experience and I was looking in, and this was just a weird sensation in the sense that I wasn't part of anything. I was there and that was there. I could have been sitting around the table with my family and feeling like, who are these people? Who are these strangers? I don't know them. I could have been in the middle of a stadium and felt like I was the only one there. And there's that disconnection that we feel. We just don't feel part of anything besides ourselves. And that's part of what addiction does. That's why, recovery groups are so good, because people who feel the same way that kind of click together and kind of understand each other and where we're coming from. So that's a disconnection, so we do need to reconnect. We do need to that spirituality to make us feel part of something bigger than ourselves, be part of life again. We need to accept ourselves for who we are, not what we're not. So in a sense, when I'm saying this, who you are is you, who I am is me, and that's perfect. We were all designed or all created unique, and there's no two of me. I might have doppelgangers, people who look like me, but they're not me. And that applies to every single one of us, and I think there's 8 billion of us at the moment. So, you cannot judge yourself or another person for who you are. Because if you do that, you're going against your creator, whoever your creator is, and saying you made a bad job of that one. So you can't do that. That would be insulting. But people will judge each other for what they do or what they don't do. You'd be judged for your behavior. Of course you would. If you behave bad, you'd be judged for it. So it's to accept that who you are is who you are, and you are unique, and that is okay. It's not what you think you are, what you should be or shouldn't be, or what your mother told you should have been or shouldn't have been. You're just you, and that's who you are. And we need to learn to accept life on life's terms. Boom. What are life's terms? Well, life is a roller coaster, and it goes up and it goes down and it goes round sharp bends and it goes upside down every now and again. But that's life, and we just have to get on with life. Don't give up on life, no matter how strange it may be or how difficult it may be, because we're on this roller coaster and everyone is on it together and we're all going through it. So as I say, appreciating both the good and the bad experiences in life, and that's very, very important. When things are going good for you, that's great. Have gratitude for everything that's working for you. Be appreciative for everything that's working for you, because if you don't, you become complacent and you just take it for the norm, and next thing you don't even feel it anymore, and then it goes away. The bad experiences in life, you wouldn't have good if you didn't have bad. Because how would you know the difference between good and bad if you didn't have bad? So you appreciate the good from the bad, but also the bad experiences, the bad feelings we have. they're a barometer telling us that something is wrong. So, if we didn't have bad feelings or bad experiences, we wouldn't know if things were going wrong. And what they do is that they're there for a reason to tell us, like, look, something's not working in your life. You better change it now. And that's what bad or negative feelings, negative experiences are all about. So we do need them all, and we must learn to appreciate, at least this is a message, this is a learning. Because I know from my own experience in life, I learned a lot more from the things I did wrong than the things I got right. Accepting a spiritual outlook, again, will enable you to see the beauty of life and all it has to hold for us. And that's bringing things back to basics, to simplicity, taking the blinkers off, so to say, seeing the wood from the trees and all those other cliches. But it's true, because, in recovery, you start to appreciate things like, the sunset or the sunrise or birds singing, someone laughing, someone smiling, telling a joke, you know, all these different things that make you feel, make us all feel good. And that is spiritual. That's the beauty of life. It's going back to the simple things that just really, really touch our heartstrings, and that's spiritual in that sense. That's a spiritual outlook when you can start to see those things. In active addiction, I know for my sake, I didn't see any of that. I lived in one of the most beautiful places in the world, and all I could think of was, where's the next drink gonna come from? When am I gonna have it? And there was sunset and wildlife all over me, and I didn't see it. And that's just what addiction does. So it's just to stop and see all that and appreciate that, and love it. We need to reconnect with our higher self. And again, as I say, going back to higher powers, God, deities, whatever that is, whatever, you believe in, that's what's important to you. That's okay. And I said, it's not about the who or what, it's the how. So it's about making that reconnection. If it's to your inner self, your inner being, you name it, whatever works. So how do we find spirituality? Well, prayer and meditation. And in a sense, prayer is actually asking for help, and meditation is listening to that answer. So when you talk about prayer, it's not about mantras and saying decades of rosaries and things like that. No, prayer has to come from the heart. It's not from the head. It's how you feel. Prayer is asking for your desires, your needs, your wants, that are very, very important to you at that moment in time. And then meditation is listening to that answer, because prayers do get answered, but you have to be in a position to accept them, because most of us, we ask for something, but we never listen to the answer. So we continue to ask, but we never listen, and we ask, we never listen. Now, whatever you believe in, whoever you believe in up there must be getting pretty fed up with us. I keep telling you the answer, but you're not listening. And it's very true, we don't stop to listen. And meditation is stopping to listen. And then that voice, it's a very subtle voice that comes from within. You've ever had a time when your head's fried and you can't think of something to do? You have to do something, or and when you sit down and just ground yourself, it becomes more clear. You get clarity, and you suddenly realize what it is you needed to do, or that an idea pops into your head. That's the power of meditation, the power of prayer. Accepting God, or God of your understanding, has always and will always be with you. And again, for me, and the reason why I put that there is, I know in my dark days of addiction, I had so many blackouts. I can't remember how I got home many's a night, but I did. And, something or someone was driving the bus, so to say, or drove me home. I can't remember. I can just remember waking up on the next day and I was in my bed, not knowing how that happened. So I do have a strong belief in that something was looking after me, be it God, my guardian angel, higher power, you name it. There was always a presence there, and I do believe that, and I do feel that. And then let go of negativity in that sense. Sorry, I skipped that. And yeah, whatever is negative going on for you in the sense, just let it go, see it for what it is. And if it's not necessary, don't harbor it. If it's a thought or feeling, don't harbor it. We do have lots of negative thoughts and feelings coming all the time. It never stops. But try not to harbor them. Look at them for what they are. 99% of them are rubbish anyway. They're not really important. On the bigger scheme of things, they're very, very small. And why let something small annoy you all day? Let it go. Open your heart and mind to self-acceptance. And again, that's to say taking off the blinkers and just starting to like yourself and love yourself at the same time. It's not a big egotistical act to do that. It's actually a very spiritual act. And then the unconditional love, as I say, and that's the love we feel for each other, for our families, our close ones, people that we would do anything for, and they would do anything for us without asking questions. We would just jump in and do it. That's unconditional love. You'll stand by somebody no matter what, through thick and thin, as best as you can. Telling our story, experience, strength, and hope. And in AA and AA rooms or NA rooms, this is sharing your experience, your drinking experience, even your experience in recovery, because it normalizes the abnormal for people. And some people, when they come into early recovery, they're very, very lost. They're all over the place. And they think that they're the only ones who think and feel this way or have had these experiences, and they feel very alienated. And when they hear somebody else talk about their experience and they can, click and resonate with them and identify with them, it's huge for people in early recovery, because they suddenly realize, God, I'm not as bad as I thought I was, in the sense, I thought I was completely crazy, but I'm not. And again, going back to positive thinking and attitude, and that positive thinking does come over time. You just have to just be aware of it. Challenge a negative, will be replaced by a positive. But it's it's a lifelong quest, in a sense, because we're always going to have good days and bad days, and days we're going to be thinking negatively and feeling negative. That's okay. That's just life again. But try and focus on the positive. If you can, if you catch a negative thought or emotion, try and flip it over to a positive thought or emotion. Let it go if it's irrelevant or if it's rubbish, and flip it if it can be flipped in that sense. Right, so I'm just going to summarize this lecture. So spirituality is the essence of AA, NA, fellowship groups, and the essence of life. And it is, because without spirituality, what would we have? We wouldn't have any sense of meaning, purpose, or hope in life. It would be it'd just be drudgery. It'd be a Groundhog Day, really, when you think about it. We'd have nothing to look forward to at the end of the day. We wouldn't have feelings of gratitude and appreciation. It would just be very, very flat. Opening your mind and heart and let go of resistance, ego, and your spirituality will find you. So it does find you. It's just never gone away. It's always been there. You just had it closed off, and the ego's had it closed off. So letting go of that resistance, letting go of that ego. It's okay to be spiritual. It's okay to feel. It's okay to be happy. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be anything. Just let that happen. Don't be trying to squash it and put it in little boxes and put it in other parts of your brain. And as you awaken spiritually, your inner peace will increase. So the more spiritual you become, in the sense you do start to feel it in yourself, you do start to feel more relaxed, more calm, able to deal with situations a lot better than what you would have in the past. And you'll feel a sense of contentment and even feel happier. You get that pit in your stomach, or that happy, nice, warm glow you feel in your gut, and you do get that more often, and it does happen more often than not, and you feel you're more in control of your life, etc. Right, so that's the end of that talk. Thanks you very much. And again, as I say, spirituality is such a vast subject, and it's open to everybody's interpretation. So whatever you believe in or what you think or feel, that's perfectly okay, as long as you're feeling something. Because if you're feeling nothing, then you have to kind of reevaluate what's going on for you. But again, if you're doing all the negative things in life, there's no way you can feel spiritual. So don't be thinking, oh, why am I not feeling spiritual if I'm doing the opposite? You have to work in congruence, with everything in yourself, and work more positively. All right, so that's the end of this talk, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, thanks, and have a lovely day. Take care.